Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. So, at the end of the day, when it comes to most SRPGs out there, they're just a place for people to go and work, right? Everybody's just going and managing a team, and that team is going off, usually doing world-ending kind of stuff, but in most situations, it's still a place that a lot of generics and named people just sort of show up and do their job for the day, right? So this got me wondering how they would all stack up as actual workplaces. Now, I don't have most of these in mind just yet, we'll go ahead and talk this through, but I just thought this might be a fun little thought experiment. Okay, so here's the tiers as they are. So free money is going to be those cases where just literally money isn't even a concern. People are potentially glad to show up and do that job there. Maybe it's just a really good vibe. Maybe the money is literally just overflowing to the point that it doesn't matter. These are going to be places like, for example, your Mario Kingdom battle situation. There's basically no danger in that job. There's literally just money on the floor, and everybody seems in a good mood all the time. Sounds pretty darn fantastic to me. Alright, next up is going to be work-life balance perfected. So these are going to be those cases where, just generally speaking, that combination of good income along with good insurance, potentially a job that's relatively safe-ish, for the circumstances anyway. Essentially creating a situation where somebody probably wants to go to work, they're probably not quitting anytime soon, and that's going to be places like, for example, the Resistance from the original Ogre battle. The reason for this is basically it comes with the best insurance package you could ever get. You literally get free immortality by going and joining the team. Not to mention, we know that they're getting paid every day. That is one hell of a convenient thing to get paid daily. Additionally, there's just long breaks where Destin decides to go hop on a griffin and fly around collecting treasure for a little while, so you frequently get vacations. I mean, that sounds like a great place to work. So, either way, there's that. You get to have the excitement of having a dangerous job without any actual danger. Alright. Next are going to be the ones that are in the okay, I guess category. These are going to be the ones that, they're necessary. There's situations that nobody really is getting out of that situation. They can't afford to quit for one reason or another. But at the same time, it's not amazing, but it's still workable. And for that, I'm thinking probably something like FTL. In that particular case, they literally cannot quit because the entire fleet is right behind them. But in terms of being a overall workplace, they do potentially end up on a ship that has more or less immortality assigned to them. They don't seem to be worried about a lot of regular scarcity type of stuff. Like, for example, you'll notice in the lore bits they mention that your ship doesn't actually need gas to go to close by locations, so once the war is over, they can basically just kind of cruise forever. It's literally only the jump fuel that they're actually going for, and money-wise, they seem to be doing just fine. You never actually have to go and get food for your crew. Supposedly, it's a Star Trek type situation where you just can replicate as much as you need. So, either way, they seem to be living in a more or less post-scarcity society, and they get to fly around in kick-ass spaceships all day, so that sounds pretty darn awesome to me. Yeah, you have to deal with the occasional space spiders, but yeah, that seems pretty okay, I guess. It seems like a pretty fair trade. Alright, so let's see. Next up on the quiet quit category, these are the ones where somebody probably wants to show up to work, but as soon as they get paid, it's time to go. And for that, we're going to put the mercenary crew from Battle Brothers. Reason for this is, truth be told, I don't know why most of the Battle Brothers stick around. In their particular case, as soon as they get paid, they should get the hell out of there. Their job is extraordinarily dangerous, and frankly, they get paid regularly enough that they can probably just take their paycheck and go. I mean, occasionally they do, I suppose. And maybe it might be safer for them to stick around as a crew, but, I would assume there's probably going to be a pretty good incentive to just kind of up and leave. It is very, very dangerous, and you never know when suddenly they're like, hey, go fight this frickin' Wendigo or whatever. So, yeah, probably quiet quit as soon as you get your payday. Alright, so next is going to be OSHA Nightmare. So these are going to be those cases where stuff is, somebody might be willing to stick around for reasons of, whether it's loyalty or nationalism or requirement, and these would be these cases where stuff is just freakishly dangerous, but there's really not much they can do about it, and that would be something like the Ring of Red universe. So the army in Ring of Red is regularly getting war crimes committed to them, they're committing them themselves, and things are just generally pretty horrible all the time for the support crews. The ones that are in the mechs, they're a little bit better. It would be nice if they made them a little bit safer, but still, those support crews are regularly getting hit by all kinds of horrific things, and it's a wonder that they keep getting people to join. Anyway, By the way, if you've never played Ring of Bread, it's awesome. Anyway, so yeah, we'll just go ahead and leave that over there. Okay, so next up on the report and run category, what do we want to do for this? You know what? Okay, let's see. For report and run, who do we want to do? Because this is kind of an awkward category, because it's basically going to be those cases where stuff is just super weird, and you can technically leave, but you know, let's go ahead and say something. That would be something like Disgaea. Like, there's a lot of horrific things going on pretty regularly. The employees in this, just any Disgaea team. Again, I know the most about Disgaea 2, but I've seen at least a decent bit of the other Disgaea games there. But in their particular case, like, we're talking about a case where they get regularly shot at work, they get regularly set on fire, and then just out of nowhere they can get called into HR and then transformed into a completely different person. So maybe reincarnation is not exactly the best thing as far as something like OSHA is concerned, but still, in those particular cases, there are higher powers in that universe, so maybe report them and run away. Just, you know, a little bit of a thing. All right, and then finally, let's see, for the final category, the one that I would say probably best exemplifies they took my stapler, that would be anyone that's forced to work under the main character of Front Mission 3. Now, for those that haven't played Front Mission 3, it is an absolutely incredible game. Wonderful mechanics, great internet system, cool customization on your mechs. The main character is a frickin' psychopath. Like, it's funny, I was looking at the wiki for it, and they're like, oh, you know, they're kind-hearted, but a little bit hot-headed. All right, when's the last time that you heard somebody miss a text, and so they decided to hop into their mech and storm a military base? A little bit hot-headed doesn't quite say it. The guy's a frickin' lunatic. He's basically Godzilla, and everybody around him is just sort of okay with it. For some reason, they're just not doing anything about the fact that he regularly hops in his freaking mech and attacks various organizations with the slightest provocation. Like, the guy is completely off his damn rocker. So, while I don't know that much about a lot of the other Front Mission stuff, like, you know, when it came to 1 and 2, frankly, they seemed a little dry in my opinion. Like, 3's kind of when I started getting interested, and then 4 I never actually tried, and everything beyond that was just like, yeah, I'm not touching that. Actually, somebody mentioned, I forgot to even bring up Left Alive recently for that Creeks from it video. Nobody remembers Left Alive, dude. The art was cool, but I remember nothing about the game itself. Anyway, so yeah, just like a complete vaporware kind of situation, unfortunately. But yeah, no, for Front Mission 3, literally, I'm okay with everybody else. The main character is a complete nutcase. So, they absolutely exemplify. They took my stapler tier. Alright, and then from there, let's just go ahead and put them into categories. Okay, so, let's see. For work-life balance perfected, I'm going to go ahead and put the One Vision version of Valeria up here. Now, the reason for this is because not only is the balance frickin' perfected in that version, just frickin' yes, but when it comes to the whole work-life situation, due to the number of builds available, they're regularly getting swapped out for other people. Presumably, they're getting paid decently well, because, you know, money is pretty well available in OV. And additionally, they tend to have a lot of support. There tends to be a lot of good teamwork between the various crews that are out there. There seems to be a good bit of safety, seeing as they have to die multiple times to die permanently. And additionally, you know, there tends to be more evacuation than bleeding out. So usually as soon as somebody's injured, there's a big priority placed on either getting them back up on their feet or evacuated from the fight. So they generally have better Medicare than a lot of the other versions of Tactics Ogre there. Okay, so let's see, next for, let's see, where do we want to put XCOM 2? I would say XCOM 2 is also probably a pretty solid work-life balance situation. I mean, they've got a freaking arcade in there. Like, that's pretty freaking awesome. So they've got an arcade built in there. They've got a very friendly crew to the point that they understand. They go down to a numbers level to understand how people are compatible with each other and pair them up constantly. To the point that they're even getting superpowers for it. Like, that's just good stuff. Like, when your management cares so much about making sure that everybody gets along, that you get superpowers for it, that's how you know stuff's going well. And yeah, in general, they've got a good cause. They are probably struggling a little bit with money, but they're probably not diluting down the soap anytime soon. They get to fly around in a cool helicarrier, they get plenty of respect for their job, and additionally, they get to just kind of blow stuff up casually. So overall, I'd say, yeah, that's probably a pretty good work-life balance for them. Probably a pretty pleasant place to work. I mean, they deal with nightmares on the regular, but they also get the kind of cool aspects for it that far outweigh the nightmare aspects. Plus, they get to be nightmares themselves. Several of the new guys there just get to straight up mind control people. So, you know, you give and you take, but I would say overall probably pretty high up there as far as work-life balance goes. All right. Let's see. Next up on OSHA Nightmare, that would be the classic version of Tactics Ogre. In their particular case, because pretty much everybody's at extreme risk all the dang time, one random crit might see somebody die forever, and you never know when your cleric will die, but be unable to be revived because they've transformed into an angel. Also, the kind of horrific thing of potentially being told one day that, hey, you are being transformed into a zombie and back a couple, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe like 100 times, because we want you to have infinite speed, and now you are stuck living in slow motion for the rest of your basically infinite life. That sounds like absolute hell. Anyway, so either way, bit of a OSHA nightmare, I would say. Probably not enough to be able to report and run, because the populace is probably supporting this. But yeah, just kind of something to consider. Okay, next up for Quiet Quit, I would say the Sentinels from Silent Storm 2. So, the reason for this is because not only is their money tight, their job is extremely dangerous, but they're oftentimes obligated to be there, from what I could tell. But that being said, honestly, there's not much that's directly keeping them there, so they probably could quit. They probably could just leave as soon as they get paid, just like the Battle Brothers there, because the jobs that they're taking on are needlessly dangerous in a lot of situations. Now, granted, some of them are far easier, like I remember that one time that you have to rescue a guy out of a rainy building in the middle of a bunch of patrols, and you never even have to fire a shot, but then you have those other cases where, you know, completely bullshit stealth mechs suddenly start showing up. So, I would say in general, probably quiet quit at your nearest opportunity before a stealth mech deletes you from existence because you can't perceive something the sound of a diesel truck that's 3 feet away from your face. Alright, let's see. Next up, also for Quiet Quit, I'm going to say the Resistance from Ogre Battle 64. Mostly because their budget is extremely limited, and oftentimes they're marching pretty much constantly. So not only are they constantly working, their insurance plan is nowhere near as good as the original Ogre Battle had, oftentimes seeing units killed off during fights, but unfortunately it gets even worse because not only are they killed off, they are then turned into slave labor as zombies. So basically that whole situation is just, actually that probably goes down to a report and run. They are definitely the epitome of a place that's probably going to be watering down the soap, probably going to getting the quarter ply toilet paper and stuff like that. Like they're constantly running into financial issues. They're constantly running into issues about taking care of their people. So yeah, no real shocker there. All right, next for free money, I'm gonna say a Lane Squad from Unicorn Overlord. Like, not only are they doing just fine with money, they can infinitely generate it, they never seem to be on a deadline, and additionally, everyone seems to really love their boss, almost uncomfortably so. It seems like every employee wants to, fuck their boss, so that's a little bit of a concerning thing. We probably shouldn't look into that too much. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. All right, let's see. Next up for okay, I guess, we'll put the police squad from Fellseal. They're generally also overworked, but they're also taken care of. There is no permadeath unless somebody directly goes and turns that mode on, so they're probably relatively safe. Additionally, they're given time off in order to kind of heal off the fact that they got killed, zombified, then brought back to life, electrocuted back to death, and then came back as a beetle on the other side and somehow turned back to human. Now, yes, that's a little bit of a nightmare, and it all kind of somewhat balances out around the middle. It's probably not enough to quit because, again, the powers that be on the opposite side definitely wouldn't be too nice of a thing. But it definitely doesn't seem like the nicest place to work, especially when you can walk in one day and suddenly be told, hey, guess what, we are reconstructing your face so that you look like Solid Snake. It's just, yeah, when they literally have the power to just sort of bring you over to the nearest police station and rearrange your bits for something else, that might be a little bit concerning as far as your kind of personality goes. Maybe you're used to being yourself and don't want to be suddenly turned into a chicken. I don't know. Oh man, actually no wait. Wait a minute. What the chicken head? What was in? No, I'm thinking like the headdress thing. Okay, never mind. All right, stupid joke. Moving on. Let's say, okay, what's next on here? Okay, I guess I'm gonna say Berwick Saga. They make a pretty good. Actually, you know what? Okay, it's not work-life balance perfected, but it is okay. They do get paid. They do get paid regularly. They have upkeep, and additionally, the commanders there are more or less incentivized to keep them safe. So overall, they're being kept safe. They're getting paid. They're being taken care of. They've got a cause. It's a pretty standard, mercenary kind of job there. Unlike the Sentinels and Battle Brothers, I feel like they're probably better treated. From what I've seen from Berwick Saga, generally people are not thrown into the meat grinder to go save everybody else because you want to save your veterans from Battle Brothers or whatnot. So I would say they're probably going to be having things a little bit better than these other guys down here. All right, next up for, let's say, report and run, we're going to put Shadowrun. Reason for this, everyone's a freaking hacker. I mean, once you show up to the 5th time and find out that your lunch has been hacked out of the fridge because everybody's stealing, everybody's hacking, that's just a sucky situation. I don't think anybody wants to work for that. Okay, next up, Wargroove. I remember next to nothing about Wargroove. I'm going to assume it's probably okay. Actually, you know what? They probably have work-life balance figured out. Because, I mean, if they're feeling good enough that they're constantly dancing, stuff's got to be pretty alright over there. Alright, let's see, next for Tyranny, I mean, the entire game is designed to be they took my stapler tier. The world's gonna end no matter what you do. Boy, that does something for motivation. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Okay. So, let's go ahead and put, for report and run, we're going to put Prince of Zenobia. Mostly you just report the bad sales and then you just kind of run away. Alright, next is a little indie title that you may not have heard of for a little bit of a while there. That'll be Himeko's Story. I'm going to say folks there probably want to quiet quit. Now, reason for this, for those that haven't played it, Himeko's Story is very similar to something like if Unicorn Overlord had... Well, actually, it's very similar to Unicorn Overlord, but turn-based. Where you essentially are putting together teams, and they will automatically fight each other based off of skills, equipment, classes, all that kind of thing. Now, a really cool setup for a game. However, there is instant permadeath if somebody dies. And they're typically fighting monsters on the regular. They seem to get paid, but they only get their one-time payment at the very start. And also, rookies don't tend to survive very long, so... Alrighty, hopefully I'm not missing anything, because I kind of just randomly had some coughing fit. Okay, so, let's see. Next up for OSHA Nightmare, I'm going to say Brigandine. Just like, they're just freaking straight up fighting magic monsters all the time. It does not seem like a safe place to be. I'm not entirely sure why people stick around there. Alright. Let's see, next up on the list, for free money, we're going to have Triangle Strategy. Now, as far as Triangle goes, that has got to be one of the most pleasant workplaces out there, because, I mean, they basically have free drinks on tap whenever. They can just go and spend their work time exercising. We know that, well, they, at least to some extent, seem to get paid. They seem to basically just be paid as part of the retinue there. And as far as everything else goes, they more or less just kind of hang out at camp. I mean, as long as you don't pay too much attention to the fact that all your coworkers are replaced with cardboard cutouts as soon as the cutscene stopped, it's a very, very kind of chill experience there. They seem to never actually be capable of dying even after being set on fire, so overall they seem to have a pretty good Medicare system figured out. And yeah, I would say that's probably a pretty darn free place to work there. Like they literally can't be fired. So, I mean, that's about as insured as you can get. You can't die, you can't be fired, you get, free perks all the time. Sounds pretty good to me. Alright, let's go on here. So, next for Okay, I guess, we're actually going to have the original Silent Storm. They're paid soldiers in that particular case. They have a bit more of a reason to stick around than the Sentinels do. They're more of a mercenary thing. In their case, though, while it is about as dangerous as it was for the Sentinels there, they don't have as many nonsense stealth mechanics, so it's probably not as nightmare-inducing. So they might be more willing to stick around, so we'll stick them into okay, I guess. Also next for free money is going to be Steam World Heist. In their particular case, they are very literally getting free money all the time. Once again, completely immortal team. Even when they're blown up, they can just be put right back together. Not to mention, their captain seems to generally actually care about them. Going and checking up on all of their stories between their various missions and whatnot. Okie dokie, got randomly interrupted because my background music does not understand what loop means. Okay, fantastic. So, alright, so yeah, SteamWorld Heist. Their captain seems to genuinely care about them. They regularly have their stories checked up on. And not to mention, they get to do a fun job. They basically live off of free money. Sure, they have to live on a rust bucket of a ship, but they very literally just get free money. Like, there's so much stuff for them to grab all over the dang place. They can just go back and rob the same ship forever if they wanted to. Like, it's safe, it's free, it's pretty darn fun, so I would say that goes into the free category. Okay, let's see. For OSHA Nightmare, I feel like this can go a few different ways, but for OSHA Nightmare, I'm going to go ahead and put in the team from Wasteland 2. Now, as far as everything goes, I haven't played Wasteland 1 or 3, it's just 2 that I've played a few times. So, in their particular case, one of the main problems is the fact that they're expected to... one of their expected jobs is to collect crap in order to turn into explosives. Now, the thing about that is that occasionally it has a tendency to just blow up the person trying to collect it. Thankfully, that was later patched in the Director's Cut version, but in the original, man oh man, there were surprisingly more fatalities to random poo than there were to enemy soldiers. Either way, the place is constantly dangerous. It seems like dang near everything is trapped, and additionally, your team might just get randomly wiped out by irradiated honey badgers. So, I would say overall, a bit of an OSHA nightmare. They literally can't quit because that's just their life now, and additionally they might be forced to listen to screaming goats all the time, so that's a bit of a thing as well. Alright, let's see, next up for OSHA Nightmare is going to be the Xenonauts. So for those that have never played Xenonauts, one of the running jokes throughout both those games is that the head scientist absolutely hates everyone. So he decides to be an ass and just constantly take all of the stuff that they're studying and just put it into common places just to see how people will react. For example, we've got the Reapers, which are basically, like, think of the thing from Alien. Imagine that with, like, scythe hands, and that's more or less what the Reaper is, like a combination of the chrysalid and the alien. And in its particular case, they decide that once you end up capturing some of them, they're going to put all of their pieces as well as the live specimens right next to the coffee maker. It's just there now. It's just forever living there. They regularly note in all of their reports how everybody in the base looks absolutely miserable, how nobody wants to be there, but they also can't leave because the world depends on them. So I would say it's probably a little bit of an OSHA nightmare. They can't leave, they can't do anything about it. They're just stuck in this really unfortunate situation that they can't succeed without their head scientist, and their head scientist is an asshole. Okay. Next up is going to be Classic XCOM. I'm just going to use the Open XCOM logo for this because, frankly, that's the only way anyone plays Classic XCOM these days. I would say it goes into quiet quit category. Now, reason for this is meat grinder tactics. In their particular case, they would be able to leave their workplace, but oftentimes they're put into extremely dangerous positions, and they regularly see their coworkers go absolutely nuts. Now, this is going just slightly above the whole OSHA nightmare thing, because they also might get lucky and be one of those few units that winds up with, like, power armor and friggin' automatic rocket launchers and stuff. So they're it's probably a complete coin toss as to whether or not they make it that far. And also, maybe they'll end up getting somebody leading them that month that happens to care about them a little bit more. Maybe they're having a good month, maybe they don't take as many casualties. In general, it's that weird middle ground of they've got to be there, there's a little bit of loyalty and, you know, a little bit of trying to save the world going on, but at the same time, there's enough regular nightmares that their own people are freaking out. Like, it's just barely above OSHA Nightmare. just because of the fact that the higher end equipment is more or less going to render them invincible. And additionally, there's a pretty solid chance that the money's flown in pretty darn good if their bases happen to have a bunch of industry set up. So we're going to go ahead and put that there. We're going to assume that all the soldiers have little businesses on the side and just kind of leave it there. All right. Let's see. Next for Report and Run, we're going to put the Metal Gear Acid universe. Well, specifically Metal Gear Acid 1 in this case. So in Acid 1's case, it's mostly because nothing makes sense. Like, just absolutely nothing makes any dang sense whatsoever. Why are we being haunted by clowns? Why are we fighting in a trick house? Why is everything so dang slow? Why does this machine gun take like 30 seconds to fire? Why on earth is this guy running around shooting a frickin' sun at people? And why is it that no one can stop betraying each other? So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the Report and Run category because that's kind of sort of how it ends. So we'll just put that up there. However, we'll just go ahead and put Metal Gear Acid 2 under free money. Now, the reason for this is similar to this one. It's essentially going to be just an improved version in every possible way. In Acid 2's case, they literally have infinite resources, so if they found a way to sell those infinite resources, they are absolutely in the money. But not to mention their workplace is way more fun. Their boss seems to, sure, be blackmailing them, but still, again, everything is basically free and very, very fun. Additionally, their insurance doesn't really get better than the fact that if one of the partners stands in the corner of the room, the other one is literally immortal. Like, literally stepped on by a Metal Gear, and just, it's fine. They're up a few seconds later. Literally can't do anything to them. That's how the starter deck only challenge was possible a couple of years ago. It was just Snake sitting in a corner, and then Venus sitting there just attempting to do some damage to this thing over and over and over, getting stepped on, and then just immediately popping back up to life. Really bizarre game, really darn fun if you've never tried it. But yeah, that is just straight up free money in my book. And we know for a fact that the cards are a legitimate thing, because during the final fight, they throw away their cards. Okie dokie. Next up for Report and Run, I'm going to say Vandal Hearts. Now, specifically Vandal Hearts 1. I haven't gone through the other ones well enough to know what's going on there, but in their particular case... actually, no, this is more of a... maybe a quiet quit kind of situation. Because there is a lot of corruption going on. They can't probably just outright go and do something about it. Like, they probably can't actually run, and reporting it probably wouldn't necessarily help them that much. But more or less the situation that plays out is that we've got Ash here, who's going and running his team of cops, and in their particular situation, just kind of out of nowhere, they find themselves... being the rebellion. Like, they're just doing their jobs one day, and then all of a sudden, hey, guess what? You're on the other side now. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that I would presume didn't really sign up for this. So, I would assume that there's a pretty good chance that a lot of the people under him should realistically be quiet quitting instead of just up and joining. But, you know, it is what it is. Okay, next up for okay, I guess, we're going to go ahead and put Classic Fire Emblem. Again, remember, we have a distinction between Classic Fire Emblem and later Fire Emblem. So for Classic Fire Emblem, most of the people that are going to be working there are either going to be the named nobles that are being pretty well protected by their leaders because they want to get all their cutscenes. They're given plenty of time to go and socialize. They're given plenty of money that seems to just sort of change hands all the time. That should be a little bit concerning, honestly. And additionally, the supply workers seem to only have to follow one guy around, so they're probably not terribly overworked. They seem to have a pretty good goal for their company overall, and in general, they're usually winning without casualties in most situations. So I would say overall it's comparatively safe next to a lot of these other guys here, and also they're probably having a pretty decent time. Again, well traded, good goal. Relatively comparatively safe anyway, and they get to use cool superpowers like teleportation. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the Report and Run category of later Fire Emblem, because that thing is a gigantic just sexual harassment complaint waiting to happen. Why is everybody trying to get with everybody? Somebody needs to deal with the obscene levels of horny in the air vents. Anyway, let's go next to Into the Breach. Now, this is a place that's going to be potentially all over the place. See, initially it starts off as a bit of an OSHA nightmare, because very literally they're waking up in the morning, they're going to work, potentially dying, and then coming back to life. That is absolutely terrifying. That is nightmarish, but they're permanently stuck in this time loop until they deal with a war that spans infinite iterations of the universe. I mean, that's absolutely horrific. That is firmly into OSHA nightmare territory. However, they can't really report and run because they're kind of the last line of defense there. They can't exactly quiet quit because what are they going to quiet quit to? You know, what, the bug apocalypse? And it's certainly not okay. It's certainly not a perfect work-life balance situation, though sometimes you do have those free money kind of runs. They also don't exactly want to turn on the organization because that's how the world ends. So I guess we're just going to actually leave it an OSHA nightmare. Or just complete nightmare, probably should have been a category. Okay, then we have original Hard West, basically Wild West stuff, but mercenary stuff in the Wild West. That's probably okay in their particular situation. Like, it doesn't seem like something that anybody should necessarily be leaving, considering stuff is already pretty freaking bleak up there. But in general, they do still get into dangerous situations on the regular with no real alternative in sight. So yeah, we're just going to put that there. Okay, after that, we've got very literally free money in terms of Horizon's Gate. One of the very first things the game teaches you is to go do merchanting, and then you just basically just take your ship, you take your crew, you build up your crew by going from place to place, and just buying and selling stuff, and just making sure you bring enough food. So as long as they remember to buy food, it's absolutely free money. Otherwise, this goes down into report and run if they forgot to stock up, or bought too many gold bars to go sell at the other port, and forgot to actually bring any food with you. And then, you know, you end up getting tired, you end up slowing down, and your ship gets eaten by a freaking kraken, but that's a whole other situation. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. So, Quiet Quit, Jagged Alliance 2. A lot of people already do that, so we're just going to put that over there. It's not exactly a great situation. They are getting paid, but man, oh man, is it dangerous. And as soon as they don't get paid, they're right the hell out of there. Okay. Then we have Hard West 2, which, where do we even put this? Because, okay, this one's a funny one. Because as far as Hard West 2 goes, they're more or less a small, loyal team. They basically get free money for fighting stuff all the time. But that money is also still pretty limited, and they also might, you know, potentially be at odds with each other at any given time. I'm going to say it's probably a bit of an OSHA nightmare. They're regularly fighting with infinite dynamite and stuff like that. They got to deal with a zombie coworker. They got to deal with like crazy curses and whatever else. Their boss literally pissed off the devil. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that they're probably a little bit of a OSHA nightmare. There's nobody that you can really report that to. Like, what are you going to do? Go get a priest? Like, the dude literally lost a poker hand to the devil. What are you going to do? We'll just put that over there. Okay, let's see. They took my stapler. I'm a little bit surprised we don't see more incidents in Fallout Tactics of people going and turning on the Brotherhood of Steel. They, again, fight nightmarish things on the regular. A lot of their conscripts are not as indoctrinated as the Longtimers. And, yeah, it definitely seems like somebody at some point would probably just pull out a rocket launcher in the middle of the base. It just doesn't seem like they're getting paid enough to put up with the amount of crap that they got to deal with. I mean, one of the early tutorial missions is like, here, you have 4 guys, they've got like 20, here's like a stick and a pistol, and they've got heavy machine guns, have fun with that. So there's that. So I'm going to say probably at some point somebody's going to turn on that organization. And actually, same thing for the Pit. So the Pit, and if you're wondering why it's called Osmium, it's the Pit Osmium Edition. So the Pit is technically a roguelike, but it's very much a SRPG. Anyway, in its particular case, their workplace is horrific. That entire planet that they're on is just made of nightmares. The surface level is covered with near-invincible zombies. The pit that you're going into is essentially one gigantic office space that has had every nightmarish thing that you can think of happen to it. There's very little chance of anyone even making it to HR, let alone filing a complaint. And more often than not, players will have a tendency to go out in a blaze of glory rather than just getting choked to death by, you know, a random robot that just stole their armor. So yeah, I would say that falls firmly into They Took My Stapler category. Alright. Next for... Where do we put Super Robot Wars? I would assume it's probably a bit of an OSHA nightmare, because how do you even regulate that? Like, they're dealing with explosives, they're dealing with heavy machinery, they're dealing with a lack of time, and potentially they gotta learn some new type of machine every freaking week, because they keep changing their team. So, that might be a little bit of a problem. So we're gonna go ahead and put that there. Okay, next for free money, we're just going to go ahead and put Tactics Ogre PSP up here. In their particular case, they basically just have again, free money. They don't have to worry about money problems too much. They can just print free money whenever they'd like. And additionally, their insurance plan doesn't really get better than being able to get punted into a volcano and live. They can just go get elixirs even if they do end up losing one of their lives. And additionally, more often than not, they will be given dang near superpowers and utter invincibility if they stick around with the team long enough. The overall co-workers are not too plentiful, and also they have a tendency to have pretty darn high loyalty to everybody, so presumably they all like each other. So yeah, while they do end up having to deal with a lot of nightmare scenarios, oftentimes they're way too overpowered for anything to really touch them, so we'll just go ahead and put them up there. Alright, next for Quiet Quit, we're going to put Tactics Advanced. Now, the reason for this is because this is essentially a workplace in which a child has been suddenly placed in charge of your brand new business there. Now, imagine you just signed up for a startup, you're not really too sure about this place to begin with, you don't even have a name yet. Like, the boss has been umming and awing about putting a name on there for weeks at this point, and you're like, just name our freaking team, and suddenly a kid shows up and names you Nutsy. They're just like, yeah, no, kid's in charge, I'll give him some advice here and there and just explain not to break the law, but he's in charge now. And then that kid decides to go try and destroy your world. Like, come on, man. That sucks. That seems like the kind of situation that you Quiet Quit at your earliest opportunity. Anyway, so yeah, we'll put that there. However, okay, I guess, would be the follow-up there in Tactics A2. While the kid is still put in charge, the original manager does stick around, make sure that he learns the ropes, and really only leaves him in charge once he gets shot. So we'll go ahead and put Luzo's adventure up there. Alright, also for Quiet Quitting, we're going to put the RuneScape protagonist, just because you're more or less hauling lumber to and from the bank for the most part, and or you're stuck in the middle of an island where you already live, picking basically a handful of herbs every few weeks. So overall, the work is not terrible. In fact, actually, it almost goes into okay, I guess, now that I think about it. Actually, it's almost even a perfect work-life balance, because just running back and forth from the bank isn't too difficult of a thing. You basically get exercise carrying that lumber back and forth. Additionally, if you're working on the island there, in that particular case, your job is so freaking easy. Like, you basically have to do almost like a tenth of the work as anybody else. You don't have to worry about selling it. You just go and deposit it to the bank, and you get paid. Everybody leaves you alone. You get to live in a pretty cool bit of scenery. Again, just basically perfect small town life, but you're getting paid as well as if you were living in a big city, you know? So it's not exactly like full-on millionaire money or anything, but either way, you're left alone, nobody questions you. It's good stuff. The only thing that changes is you might get paid more to do a little bit more work, which, yeah, that's kind of what everyone dreams of, right? So yeah, I was going to say Quiet Quit, because, you know, your boss absolutely does not care about you or even learn your name, but that's actually, you know, that's actually pretty good. Though you'd think after he's had Demon Butler for like 2 decades, at some point he would have asked the name, but alright, whatever. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on here. So, I would say as far as okay, I guess, we're going to have Shining Force. In their particular case, they're probably not getting paid particularly well. They're more or less a ragtag group of rebels and whatnot. However, they must be getting paid something, considering that they are still technically the old royal family, and additionally, they get to have cool hamster pets. So, you know, it's something, so it's probably okay. It's not the kind of thing that they want to quit, because they would, you know, that's not really an option. But yeah, it doesn't seem particularly nightmarish. They've got a team of even more nightmarish things on their side. You know, sometimes the level balance is a little weird, but it's fine, you know. I think it works out pretty darn well. Alright, next for work life, actually, Yeah, as far as a perfect work-life balance, I'm gonna say the team from Kingsvane. So, they're basically a group of spies, more or less. And in their particular case, their boss clearly cares about them. At the end of the day, they all rest and hang out at a campfire, just kind of talk through their day, see what's going on there. Apparently, my phone's going off like crazy. So, yeah, money's not exactly a huge concern for them. They mostly spend all of that on equipment just to keep stuff going. So presumably they don't really need too much in the way of actual money there. They regularly get new training, potentially opening up new opportunities when they get back. Potentially they don't even have to walk everywhere if everyone's just riding on the dragon. In general, like, whenever anything happens to them, they're just rebuilt because they're clay people. So, you know what? I would say that's a pretty perfect work-life balance in their particular case. Presumably they don't need to eat; they just slap more clay on themselves. So, in their case, I would say, yeah, they're just they got everything more or less figured out. I'd say. So, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, let's see. Next for what do we want to do here? Okay. We're going to say for report and run, we're just going to put Ashley, just anyone working under Ashley, Riot from Vagrant Story down here. Reason for this is, as much as the guy is an extremely capable, spy and whatever else, dude's an asshole. Like, well, the only times that you ever see him interact with any of his employees, or employers for that matter, is when, for example, he's talking with the church and just constantly talks about just kind of straight to the business type of stuff. But as soon as he's assigned a partner, all he can do is one-liners and acting like a dick. So, like, oh yeah, we needed more reinforcements. No, I am the reinforcements. Like, oh, what are you gonna do? Slams door. Like, the guy's an ass. They get the job done, but I'm just saying, they probably suck as a manager. The rest of the entire game, Melrose spends captured, but still, like, not only are they directly, just disrespectful to you the entire time, but they also can see into your mind, which is concerning to say the least. You really don't want your boss to be omniscient, so there's that too. Okay. So let's go ahead and move on then. Okay, next for work-life balance perfected, we're going to put the team from Monster Sanctuary. Technically, it's more of a Metroidvania Pokemon type of situation. To me, it still falls into the same category. Movement is still a thing. Technically, it doesn't have like grids, but you still have team-based fights and whatever. So I'm just going to include it because I want to. So in Monster Sanctuary's case, they got this mess completely unlocked. Money is functionally infinite. They get to have their basically immortal pets flying them around and stuff. They can be used for dang near anything, from potentially breaking through mountains, to lighting lights for you, to singing doors open, to moving rocks around and whatnot. Like, it seems you basically just have an entire team of whatever you need done that works for free, that's just available in your pocket. I would say that place is extremely nice to work for. They've got a competitive scene, but it's not like crazy sweaty or anything. They have everything that you could ever need, and it's just fine. The folks that are there seem to have very supportive parents. Not really super relevant, but it's just kind of neat. As far as kind of scarcity of resources, they have everything that they could possibly need, and it's also relatively cheap. So overall, economically, stuff seems pretty good. As far as food goes, it's basically everywhere. So they've got that mess unlocked too, to the point that they can put together custom diets for each of their monsters and whatever else. So I would say overall that place is basically a nature sanctuary mixed with the best workplace you could ask for. So yeah, definitely. Honestly, I would probably say it's probably the top end of work-life balance. So we'll put Monster Sanctuary up there. All right. Where do we put Gendeok? We're going to say Quiet Quit. Obviously, they've got a job to do, but the leader is seemingly told that they've got visions from God, and also, well, you don't want to learn French, so you go ahead and just quiet quit at your earliest opportunity. By the way, I joke, like, I personally didn't like learning that particular language. I've got nothing against French people, it's just really funny. For some reason, that's just always cracked me up. Anyway. I think it's just because I've got relatives that are English, and so like every now and then on holidays you would hear random insults of like, "Here's how you do the longbow insult" and stuff like that. Like, "Here's how you do your fingers." Like, do you have anything against French people? No, not really, but we're just supposed to learn this stuff. Like, okay, fair enough, fair enough. I think it's just a meme at this point. Anyway. Let's go ahead and move on. Okay, report and run. That would be Phoenix Point. The state of launch of that game was definitely a report and run type situation. Apparently it's gotten better. I don't know. I'll pick it up on sale at some point. But yeah, really cool ideas, but man, its early state was frickin' rough, dude. Okay, let's see. Night of Lotus. I would say they probably, where do we want to put them? Like, I would say they're probably in the okay, I guess, category. They do have to deal with scary stuff on a regular basis. Their insurance situation is not particularly great, because Alphonse might very easily have forgotten to renew their subscription to the Altar of Resurrection. However, there's a pretty solid chance that they'll end up as a divine being by the end of the game. So that's always a bit of fun there, though also potentially a little bit of a existential nightmare in their particular case, so it's unclear. Depends on how somebody feels on confirming that divine stuff exists, I suppose. Anyway, that being said, they presumably aren't getting paid very much, because money's relatively scarce for at least part of Night of Lotus there. I would say they're probably okay at best. It seems like everything is pretty solid by the end of the game, though, so that's something to look forward to. Okay, let's see. For Final Fantasy Tactics, that seems like a situation people would quiet quit. Only because once, like, okay, imagine somebody is just told one day, okay, you're signing up for this military academy. You're gonna go get trained to be a soldier, right? You're supposed to go serve this king or whatever else. And so they go through all of this. They presumably are a squire for absolutely ages, which means that they're going and emptying somebody's poo buckets and shining their weapons and, polishing off armor and repairing their pants and all this other stuff. And so finally they go through all this training and it's like, okay, you get to finally be, trained up to be a knight yourself. Okay, you just have a little bit of further training to go unlock the class itself, but still, it's time for you to officially get the rank. So you go out there, and you're like first week on the job before your leader manages to basically piss off everybody in charge, and now you're just off on your own. It's literally just you and this other guy. One of their friends just blew up, got friggin' blown up. They ended up killing off one of the folks that was supposed to be one of your superiors. At that point, you're on the run. Now you're suddenly working as mercenaries. This is a very unstable workplace. I'm just saying. So yeah, and then finally one day, you see one of your other coworkers. They've been around for a while, but the religious nut that works out back couldn't quite reach them because their faith was shaken that day because somebody was mean to them. So they couldn't resurrect your friend. They turned into a crystal, and then your friend suddenly your boss said, "Hey, go eat that guy." Anyway, so yeah, that's a little bit of a quiet quit type situation, I would say. Not quite going into OSHA territory because, basically you can resurrect yourself and whatever, but I would say it's definitely, like hell, potentially almost going down into report and run. But I would say that's more of a situation that you probably want to just slip away in the night and see if anybody will buy your story over what happened. Okay, next for Work-Life Balance Perfected, we're going to go ahead and say probably Symphony of War. We know they get paid, when they go and join. We know that they're relatively well taken care of. As long as somebody's not playing with permadeath, you're more or less safe there. And I mean, in general, that's really kind of about it. You've got a lot of folks to back you up. You're generally working in pretty large teams, and in some cases, they might just decide to let you have a pet dragon. There's a lot of work promotions to go through. So yeah, I would say overall, it's probably a pretty decent place to work, comparatively speaking. Especially if the teams are well built, you're more or less curb stomping through your competition, so it's relatively safe. Okay, let's see. Next up for, what is this? I think this is technically, I don't know, I think this is meant to be like Lion War, or not Lion War of the Lions, One of the mods. I don't remember why this was on here. We'll just leave it down here for now. I don't remember what this one's supposed to be. All right. So then lastly, Tactics Ogre Reborn. Where would we put that? I'm gonna say that working for the Resistance in Tor is probably a little bit of an OSHA nightmare. Now, reason for this is because they no longer have their lives from before. They no longer have 99 revives available at any given time, potentially 188, depending on the situation. Or, I guess, would it be 187? No, it would be 88. 188, rather. Actually, not even then, because then it would probably be 277, because you've also got the reses, and then if they decided to potentially stack that up, I mean, who sucks that much? Anyway, let's go ahead and continue on here. So, in their case, death may be very sudden and unexpected. You may potentially be re-raised as a zombie just to keep you going. And in the worst case scenario, you may be just left to bleed out because the next guy can just take your spot. In general, I would say that it's a workplace that's going to be relatively harsh. However, people really love their hobbies in the Tor universe, so they might just suddenly hand you a knife, teach you about hammers, about swords, about axes at the same time, and just told you. Just basically tell you, hey, look, just hold this knife up in the air. It's going to make a little tornado happen. And my God, is that going to make you happy, because that is just going to instantly max out your loyalty. So I would say overall, while it is a bit of a safety nightmare in all directions, it's still probably a place that's relatively fun to work for. So I would say pretty decent chance of avoiding quiet quitting. But once all said and done, if you did get somebody that is actively trying to take care of you in that situation, I would say they probably would go up into okay, I guess. It's easy how quickly we were convinced with one simple spellcast. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of about that. In general, this is a completely imperfect list. I just thought it was a fun little thing to ramble on about. So, anyways, let me know what y'all think. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.